Can you think of a time in your life, or I want you to think of a time in your life, I'm sure the answer is yes. I want you to think of a time in your life where God has put you in a situation or a place that you would or did not choose for yourself. And, well, can you think of a time in which God has put you somewhere that really made you question what he was doing? Yeah? So, location, situation, Scotty, what?
It took me years to realize it was God that did it, but when God put me in jail, there for a long time. I didn't realize it till later in life, but there was a reason I was there. I was headed down a very, very bad path. And that put a stop to it.
Okay. So God put you in a difficult situation to keep you away from a potentially worse situation, right? That's a good lesson to be able to look back on that and see, okay, I see what you were doing, seeing how you were helping me. Yeah. Yes, Janet?
In Austin, I was working for the state, and an opening came up at the Christian school. I didn't have any plan on even applying for it. It was half the salary that I was making at the state. But I got the job. I mean, I didn't even apply for it. And I wondered, half the salary, we were struggling anyway. And it turned out to be a great blessing. I ended up working there for 8 years.
Okay. I like that because that's what I was going to ask next, is if you were able to see that difficult situation all the way through, to see God's glory come through that. And I think that that's, as much as we like to, be in control, as much as we like to think that we're in control, because we make a lot of decisions in our lives. We're in charge and responsible about a lot of things day to day. And so we're not that excited when we are forced to be somewhere or do something that's really not our choice. We don't like someone else to say, hey, this is a direction that you're going, or this is the place that you need to be. We want to choose that place. We want to choose our living quarters, right? We want the freedom to choose where we will work. How many times have we prayed, God, I want to serve you, and I just want to be useful in your kingdom, and here's exactly where I can do that. So I'm going to go ahead and need you to open this door, right? I've already got the door all picked out. It's nice and mahogany. It's very plush. I know it leads to a good place, and so I'm going to need you to go ahead and just pave the way and straighten the path and make everything work out so I can go through there. You ever had that door that you were just absolutely certain of not opening? Yeah. How's that feel? Does it make you question? Make you wonder? Lord, what's going on? I know that was it. I mean, how many hours have I prayed about this? How much have we talked about this and prepared for this? And I just knew that was the direction you were going to take me. What's going on? It's interesting when you think about it. I've had this thought often. This may be one of the hardest things that I've had that God has taught me. And he's really just kind of over the years shown me that disappointment is really not one of the things that I, as his, should be feeling. And I think we spend a lot of time, I do, being disappointed in things. I have certain expectations, you have certain expectations, and they don't work out the way we want. I'm disappointed. Oh, can't do that. I just knew. Even that, right? Even making that statement of ego, as if I know anything. Oh, I just knew the future. I knew that this is exactly what God had planned. In 1 Corinthians chapter 10, 1 Corinthians 10:31, the Apostle Paul says, look, and he puts it in perspective for us. He puts it in perspective. He says in 10:31, so look, whether we eat or we drink or whatever we do, do it all to the glory of God. Give no offense to Jews or Greeks or to the church of God, just as I try to please everyone in everything I do, not seeking my own advantage, but that of many, that they may be saved. So Paul tells the church, he says, look, I live my life in such a way so that my personal cause is not the one that is advanced, but yet I am living and speaking and sharing with the hopes and with the purpose that others may come to know Christ. That's really powerful when we take that lesson, not as an apostle's lesson, not as a preacher's lesson, but just as a lesson of faith. That I'm going to live my life for God's glory. He gave his life for me, and so I have freely given my life to him. So whatever I do, whatever I say, it's going to be for God's glory. It's not going to puff me up, build me up, hoist me up. It's going to lift him up. It's going to bring glory to him. Well, tonight we're going to take a look at a story. We're going to take a look at a man in Scripture who really didn't have too much in his own control. But the amazing thing about this story is we are going to see how much God can do in those situations where we feel like we're not in control. The story's in Mark chapter 5. Mark chapter 5. And I'd like two readers tonight, please, to kind of take the two chunks of this story. All right, so, Robert, if you'll read Mark chapter 5, verses 1 through 13. And Ben, if you will go 14 through 20. So we're going to read the whole story, and then come back and take a look at it.
They came to the other side of the sea, to the country of the Gerasenes. And when Jesus had stepped out of the boat, immediately there met him out of the tombs a man with an unclean spirit. He lived among the tombs, and no one could bind him any more, not even with a chain. For he had often been bound with shackles and chains, but he wrenched the chains apart, and he broke the shackles in pieces. No one had the strength to subdue him. Night and day among the tombs and on the mountains, he was always crying out and cutting himself with stones. And when he saw Jesus from afar, he ran and fell down before him. And crying out with a loud voice, he said, "What have you to do with me, Jesus, Son of the Most High God? I adjure you by God, do not torment me." For he was saying to him, "Come out of the man, you unclean spirit." And Jesus asked him, "What is your name?" He replied, "My name is Legion, for we are many." And he begged him earnestly not to send them out of the country. Now a great herd of pigs was feeding there on the hillside. And they begged him, saying, "Send us to the pigs, let us enter them." So he gave them permission. And the unclean spirits came out and entered the pigs, and the herd, numbering about 2,000, rushed down the steep bank into the sea and drowned in the sea.
The herdsmen fled and told it in the city and in the country, and people came to see what it was that had happened. And they came to Jesus and saw the demon-possessed man, the one who had had the legion, sitting there clothed and in his right mind, and they were afraid. And those who had seen it described to them what had happened to the demon-possessed man and to the pigs, and they began to beg Jesus to depart from their region. As he was getting into the boat, the man who had been possessed with demons begged him that he might be with him. And he did not permit him, but said to him, "Go home to your friends and tell them how much the Lord has done for you and how he has had mercy on you." And he went away and began to proclaim in the Decapolis how much Jesus had done for him, and everyone marveled.
All right, thank you guys. Okay, you know the story. Jesus comes to an area of the Gentiles. He's crossed the sea with his disciples, and the place where he lands is Gentile land. And so there's not the same messianic expectation in this land. But the first person that meets him off the boat is the city outcast. I mean, this guy, everybody knows him. Everybody avoids him. I mean, they tried to tie him up. They tried to chain him down. And they just said, well, you know, I don't know if they said, but basically he wasn't welcome anywhere except the cemetery. And so this guy that spends his days probably looking half crazy or half dead, he runs up to Jesus as Jesus gets on the land. He recognizes him. He knows who he is because we know that the demons know who Jesus is. Just because they're not on his side does not mean they don't know what's going on. And so the demon, I think about this guy, this poor guy. He's got a legion of demons inhabiting his body. He doesn't even get to be the one to talk to Jesus. He doesn't get to say anything. The demons are doing the talking. They're running the show. He's not in control. Now, we cannot all relate to this, but I can imagine, and I've been around enough and witnessed enough, been close enough to people that have struggled with something that doesn't allow them to enjoy the same gifts of communication or control, whether it be mental or physical. Don, I think of your frustration of knowing what you want to say and just not having the control of mouth to get the words out when you want to.
It stays in here.
And you're kind of trapped sometimes, aren't you?
Yep, that's why I have these.
Mm-hmm. And if you've ever known anyone who was just trapped inside their body, that their mind was fine, but their body just wouldn't do all the things that we take for granted every day that our body allows us to do. And that's this man. This man is not in control. And worse than that, he is being controlled by something awful, something evil, something terrible. And it has ruined his life so much that he's torn and tattered and wretched and walking around the graveyard. Because no one in town wants him. No one in town wants to see him, talk to him, hear him, even think that he exists. And so Jesus comes to his land, and he runs out to Jesus, and the spirits do the talking, and they say, look, and did anyone else think it was just kind of funny what they said in verse 7? I mean, they recognize who he is, but they beg him by God. I beg you, in the name of God, do not torment me. I mean, this situation, this isn't good. I mean, you can imagine a legion of spiritual beings all trapped inside this one body. That is a lot of power in a very small apartment. Right? That is, it kind of reminds me, did you guys ever see the cartoon movie Aladdin? Anyone ever seen that Disney movie? What does Genie say? Ultimate power, itty little living space. That's kind of what's going on here. And so they speak to Jesus, and I beg of you in God's name, please, don't torment us. Don't make it any worse. We know you can, but please don't. And Jesus is saying, come out of him, come out of him, come out of him. So then they change tactics, and I'm like, okay, he's kicking us out. This is about to not be good. Well, don't send us away. Don't send us away, because this horrible situation is better than the alternative. So please don't send us out of this country. There's some pigs. There's some pigs. Send us to those pigs. We'll take up home in that herd of pigs. Now, imagine yourself a Gentile pig farmer that day. Not a good day. Not a good day. That might have been like being heavily invested in the stock market last March. Literally. Your livelihood, you just watched it run off a cliff. 2,000 pigs, and Jesus lets those evil spirits go and live inside those pigs. And what do they think to do? Well, let's end it. And so those farmers now are going, okay, what just happened? All they know is this is horrible. It's crazy, and it's awful, and we got to go tell everybody. So they run off into town. They got to tell everybody, you will not believe what just happened. This is crazy. This is crazier than the crazy guy. We thought the crazy guy was bad. This other guy's shown up. And now he's doing something to the crazy guy, and now the pigs are crazy. I mean, how much crazy do we have to deal with here? And so they run to town and they go tell everybody, and so everyone starts coming out. Everyone starts coming out to the cemetery. Coming out to the cemetery to see what is going on. To see what is going on. When the people get there and actually meet Jesus, how do they respond? How do they respond to God's Son once they come out there and see what thing, if you want to call it great, or at least amazing, or shocking, how do they respond to Jesus?
They wanted him to leave. Go away.
Go away. Go away. Whatever this is, we don't want it. Whatever that was, we would like to not look at it, think about it, or ever see it again. Leave. Leave. So he does. He does. They say, we want you to go. And again, haven't heard anything from the guy. Poor guy. They didn't say a word this whole time. And Jesus heals him. And he's sitting there. Now they want Jesus to leave. And from the story, you almost can't tell if they're more shaken by the loss of their herds or the fact that Captain Crazy is over there like one of us. That kind of shakes him. Because now he's dressed. He's sitting by the campfire. He's having a conversation. He's acting like we act. We don't understand that. We don't understand that. I mean, imagine if you experienced someone that Jesus had healed, that you knew their entire lives up to that day as a certain way, and then you see them, the next time you see them, 100% fixed. I mean, can you imagine why so many people had a problem with the healings? Even the religious authorities said, look, we can't argue that something amazing has happened here, but this does not compute. It doesn't fit. And it is very hard. It's very hard. We've seen this in other healings. Think about the guy that had his legs fixed, and he goes home. They said, hey, pick up your mat and go home. And he goes home, and they have this whole tribunal thing. And he's like, look, I don't know about the Jesus, okay? I don't know all the details. This is what I know. I couldn't walk. I met him. I can walk. You know, they got his parents involved, and they go through with witnesses and try to figure all this stuff out. People had a hard time because they knew someone in a certain situation completely changed, and then I don't know you anymore. I don't like that. Even though they're better. They are completely fixed, they're healed, they're better, and people don't like that they're different. They don't like that they're different. So, Jesus is leaving. He's going to go back where he came from. So he's there, he does one thing. He's getting back in the boat because people don't want him there. What is the one thing the guy asks? What does he want? He finally gets to talk, we finally get to hear him. What does he want?
He wants to go.
I just want to be where you are. I know, try not singing it. In your presence. That's all I want. Take me with you. Because that was the most amazing thing that's ever happened in my life. And it came from you. And I just want to be where you are. Whatever you've got going on, I want it. Whatever else I might see, I want to be a witness. Whatever else I might benefit and experience, that is what I want my life to be with you. I mean, surely you rescued me from all those demons for a reason. Surely you have healed me, fixed me, so that I am now worthy and able to accompany you. That's all I want. And Jesus says, no. No. Lord, I have prayed hours for you to fix this. We get tired. You don't answer. Or, Lord, I had my heart set on this so much, and you just close the door. You can relate to what he's feeling at this point in the story, right? Yeah, we connect with that, and we think, I just want one thing. It's not a bad thing. It's not a bad thing, Lord. I'm not asking for selfish reasons. I recognize you. I've been changed. And I just want to be where you are. And Jesus says, no. You can't. You can't be with me. But instead, what does Jesus tell him? To go home to his friends and family. Share the good news. You can't come with me. I need you to do something else. Now, whatever you think about this story, because again, it's interesting and it is amazing because as you go through the Gospels and reading through the stories and in some places Jesus is like, hey, go tell them on the mountain, right? Tell everybody how your life has changed. Other people, he would do something for them. He's like, hey, let's keep this on the down low between you and me. And can you do that? This guy wants to be with Jesus, and he says, no. You have a different purpose. Go tell all your family. Go tell all your friends. Go tell, and look what he does. Verse 20. He went away and began to proclaim in the Decapolis how much Jesus had done for him, and everyone marveled. Turn over to Mark chapter 7. There is a reason that Jesus did not take him with him. There's a purpose. There's a grand design, if you will. Or if you just need words for it, God knows better than us. God knows better than us what is good for his kingdom. Now, do we ever struggle? Do we ever have do we ever struggle with God for control? Do we ever have times where do we ever struggle with trusting that God knows what's best for his kingdom? We do, don't we? I mean, this is my life. Surely I know what's best in it. Right? We have a hard time admitting our limited vision and limited understanding of things. We have, maybe even a harder time understanding or admitting how little control we have over things. We don't like that. We don't like it. Because that sounds a lot like weakness. It sounds like a whole lot like dependency. It's not fun words for us. In Mark chapter 7, go down to verse 31. Jesus leaves the guy there to tell everybody at the Decapolis. He goes away, and here in Mark chapter 7, verse 31, then he returned from the region of Tyre and went through Sidon to the Sea of Galilee in the region And they brought to him a man who was deaf and had a speech impediment, and they begged him to lay hands on him. And taking him aside from the crowd privately, he put his fingers into his ears, and after spitting, touched his tongue. And looking up to heaven, he sighed and said, F. That's not even English, Sherry. Help me out. That is, be opened. I can read the translation. Be open. Open up. His ears were opened. His tongue was released, and he spoke plainly. And Jesus charged him not to tell anybody. But the more he charged them, the more zealously they proclaimed it. And they were astonished beyond measure, saying, He has done all things well. He even makes the deaf hear and the mute speak. Now, what do you think made it possible for Jesus to show back up at the Decapolis and get a warm welcome? Thank you. Demon boy, no one wanted to say it. That's what made it possible. He does what Jesus tells him to do. I just want to be where you are. And he says, your place, he doesn't say it in as many words. He says, your place in my kingdom is to go back to where you are from and let people know. And because he does that, 2 chapters later, in our physical reading of the gospel time, 2 chapters later, Jesus is able to cross the sea again, go back to that area. The last time he was there, they were begging him to leave. We can't handle this. And they couldn't. They weren't ready. They weren't ready. But the first guy had done such a good job of sharing his story, his encounter with God, being touched by grace. He does such a good job of sharing his story that when Jesus shows back up, everyone's like, oh, we've heard about you. We've heard about you. We know what you can do. Can you help? Can you help this person? Can you help this person? Because we've got some people that need help. We've got some people that need help. Church, the message from this story is straight, just flat out. Jesus puts us where he needs us in his kingdom. Jesus puts us where he needs us in his kingdom. And the sooner that you and I start to trust that he knows best and just share with those around us how grace has changed our lives. That looks an awful lot like the biblical story. Doesn't it? Yeah. You and I are going to find ourselves, however many days we have, and however many years we're allowed, you and I are going to find ourselves in situations that we would not have chosen, that we may not understand, that we just rail against and don't want to be in. I don't like these circumstances, Lord. I don't like this location. I don't like this restriction. I don't like where you have me now. I don't like everything that's around me. I don't like anything about it. Can you just let me be where you are? Go and tell your people. Go and share the story. Because that's what I need you to do in my kingdom. I hope you will find in your tongue, your voice. And I hope we'll be more like Demon Boy. I don't know his name. I don't know. Trust that God knows what he's doing. It's his kingdom. He's responsible for it. He's just included us in the victory parade. So, throw some candy, throw some beads. Let people know. Have a blessed week.